button. Gotcha.
The holiday edition of Red by Footy Talks. Things are mostly winding down for the year in Canadian soccer circles, but there's still definitely a few stories that we're diving into this week. My name's Mitchell Tierney, editor at Waking the Red, fellow WUTR. Brady Reed will stop by in just a bit to talk about the year that was for Toronto FC's prospects and look ahead to 2021. Ahead on the show as well, a lot of LA talk, LAFC in the CCL final. Greg Vanney likely heading there next year as LA Galaxy coach. Some Canadians moving to LA as well. And of course, the Canadian men's national team will talk about their plans for early 2021. But Jeff, Michael, how are we doing this week?
Dreading tonight, obviously.
Yeah, just clearly in that holiday spirit.
We're trying to bring some holiday cheer this week, but yeah, unfortunately, a little bit of a tough one off the top is the LAFC looking to become the first MLS side to win the CONCACAF Champions League. Obviously, shout outs to Canadians Mark Anthony Kay and Dan Yakovich on the team. They face Tigres tonight in the CONCACAF Champions League final, a team who have been to 4 of the last 5 finals now, but are 0-3 in those finals. I always thought Tigres was Spanish for Tigers, not Buffalo Bills, but at any rate, that was only a joke for Charlie if he's listening. How are you guys feeling going into tonight's final?
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
Horrible.
Feeling, that's for sure.
I don't like it one bit. Not one little itty bitty boo. It's not good. Yeah. You want to go, Mike?
No, that's fine, Jeff. I put out a poll this morning on the Waking the Red Twitter feed, and I think it's up to 200 votes right now. And this pretty much sums up where Toronto FC supporters are at right now. I asked, as a TFC Live supporter, would you mind seeing LAFC become the first team to win the CONCACAF Champions League tonight? And right now, the poll is sitting, I think it has over 200 votes. It's at 52.2% saying, sure, that'd be cool. And 47.8% are saying, please, no.
Yeah.
So that kind of shows the contrast of where people are. Some people are saying, having LAFC win the CONCACAF Champions League tonight, that would be a win for Major League Soccer as a whole. And of course, that can't be understated against, a Liga MX and everything that they've, accomplished there, and how, as a whole, the narrative with MLS is that they're inferior to Liga MX. And, that you can't really argue that based on Champions League performances. So if LAFC can pull through here and they'd be the first MLS side to, defeat all the Liga MX giants, perhaps there is some, ground for MLS now to stand on in comparison to Liga MX.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised the poll is in favor of LAFC for tonight, because I remember it was 2011, right, when RSL made that run to the final, and there was the whole MLS for RSL thing. Back then, especially for Toronto FC, I know they'd had a bit of a run in the Champions League the past couple of years, but it really did feel like winning the CCL was not something that was going to happen for Toronto FC in near future, considering, everything about that club at that time. Having been so close to the final now with what happened in 2018, I think a lot of people's feelings on that are changed because, with the way it all happened, there's kind of a feeling that this is our thing. You know what I mean? That's, I think I summed 100%. Up exactly how Jeff's feeling there, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on another conversation that certainly will surround this, which is how do we compare this if LAFC wins to certainly what Toronto FC did and winning the CONCACAF Champions League in general? Because You got that single leg knockout. You've got the fact that they didn't have to play at least the last couple of rounds down in Mexico, which of course we all know is part of the toughness of winning this for an MLS side. There's also the timing of it that LAFC can't determine this, but usually MLS sides are in preseason. Right now it comes at the end of the year, kind of a great time for LAFC. So how big is the asterisk if they do it?
Humongous. Massive. It gives me no pleasure to say this because I feel like a hypocrite, but we were so damn close, and we beat sides in 2-leg aggregate. We went down to Mexico. Has LAFC had a single bag of urine thrown at them? I don't think so. Therefore, there's a urine asterisk. Bag of piss equals asterisk. You can't fault LAFC. This is the path they had taken. You can't fault MLS HQ. They're going to jump on the back of this in terms of marketing, and that's their mandate. So you can't be mad. But I'm going to try. I'm really going to try. Hopefully, I don't have to worry about it because Tigres come out and absolutely torch them tonight, and all is well and fine in the world. But I don't know if you've been reading the notices. It looks like Ignac and what's the winger? I can't remember his name now. The two major. Well, I mean, Tigres has got a lot of attacking weapons, but two major attacking weapons are sitting out tonight, and I don't know if that isn't equal to Atuesta sitting out for LAFC on the back of the red card he grabbed.
Mm-hmm. I honestly don't know too much about the lineups in depth for Tigres, but just going back to Mitch's point there, and when I speak to Toronto FC players, and just it doesn't even have to be about the Champions League run, but when I speak to them about their past experience and what they're going to use moving forward, the one thing they commonly draw upon is spending time in Mexico, at Azteca, at those types of places, because those environments is what CONCACAF Champions League is all about, accomplishing feats in those type of environments. If you're doing this in a neutral ground in Orlando, obviously that neutralizes the whole home field advantage, quote unquote. But Mexico's home field advantage is greater than anyone else's in MLS, and that is without a doubt. Just again, speaking to the players, they even like from their run in early 2018, they still talk about having to stay in the hotels there in Mexico, and having to not be able to leave their room because this year was sort of similar to that in the sense that they were sort of isolated in Hartford. They couldn't leave their hotel, and that's what they were drawing upon, those Champions League experiences. So it's a different breed, just competing down in Mexico. So there has to be that massive asterisk.
Massive. But hopefully we never have to discuss this tomorrow, and it's just.
So you're just all on board rooting against LAFC tonight. Even with Mark Anthony Kaye there in the middle.
60,000% on the side of Tigres. I want them to score 100 goals in the first 5 minutes. No,
for sure. You've fallen. I don't know. It's 50-50. So you're half wrong, half right.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much my MO. So there we go. Yeah.
I'll play slight devil's advocate for LAFC in terms of the legitimacy of this. One of which is the path they've taken to get there. Beating 4 straight Mexican league opponents is something we've never seen an MLS side doing this. We've talked about the way they did it. Obviously, they did have to go down to Leon, so they at least got one. It did not go well for them, if memory serves. I think they lost like 2. The other thing I will say is we can't read.
It's my asterisk.
Oh, okay.
I drew an asterisk.
We need producer Kev back to get the visual tests on there. But the other thing that I will say for them is anyone putting an asterisk next to Bayern Munich for the way they won the Champions League, because same thing, single knockout behind closed doors.
Thanks, Mitch. I hate it.
That's a fair point, but then I'll just go back to like my original point. It was just about playing in Mexico, and I think that honestly trumps having a neutral ground, just because it does sway on the tip of the tie so much. Well, they're saying that they didn't play in the rain in Azteca. That's hilarious. But I don't know where to move on from there other than I still think it's an asterisk, man.
All right. Well, let's move on from it because I think we've said all that we need to on that.
Go Tigres!
Yeah. Move to the other LA team, which of course is expected to, in short notice, announce its next head coach, and everything that we've heard is that will be Greg Vanney. Thoughts on this? I mean, actually, Greg Vanney did win the 2000 CONCACAF Champions Cup as a player for the LA Galaxy, and we know he's been there for 7 years as a player as well. I mean, I guess not surprising. A pretty big one.
No, not at all. I mean, I think I
wrong LA team ticker.
Oh yeah. He's not going to LAFC, Mike.
That's on me. So the question to that answer is no.
Yes, no. Although that would be awesome because if he went, we drive to Bob Bradley's house and throw a giant truck full of money on his doorstep. Yeah, I mean it's the worst kept secret in this offseason, and just announce it already. Just announce it already. Seriously, some of us have to move on with our lives. I'm in limbo right now. Just announce it so I can spend 2 days on the final stage of grief, and then we'll be fine here. But you know, I don't understand. If the deal's done, then what are they waiting for? Like,
what if he doesn't go to LA Galaxy?
I think that there's a 0% chance of that happening. But
what,
you know,
if he goes to LAFC?
yeah, he could go to LAFC. No, but I don't understand. What's the tactical? What are the pluses and minuses of not announcing it already? Are they waiting for us to hire a coach so that it lessens the hit? Or I mean, I just don't understand. If it's all lined up, then do it. So I can.
Yeah, I don't know if LA Galaxy have TFC's best interest in mind here.
I doubt they do.
Yeah,
I doubt they do here. But
well, I mean that brings up the other point. There's calls on the internet for TFC to get Garber bucks because of LA Galaxy's. Damn, you've done it to me. Now he's going to LAFC. But there are calls for MLS to award Garber bucks to TFC in the case of the Galaxy tampering. You know, based on rather flimsy evidence, you know, based on the timeline. I don't think that that's ever going to happen, but you know, we've moved beyond, is Greg going to LA Galaxy to, you know, what is TFC going to get out of it? So I think it's a done deal, and I don't know why it hasn't been announced yet.
Yeah, no, Jeff, as you pointed out, it was kind of written in the stars there from like a couple of weeks ago where, you know, this did make sense. This fit kind of did line up perfectly. And from a TFC perspective at the time, it obviously didn't really make much sense. But then looking back, hindsight's 2020, and it makes perfect sense. Like everything is lining up right now for Greg Vanney to go take over LA Galaxy, go, you know, bring them back to, you know, the echelon that they've been at. And you know, Greg Vanney said it himself. He's a builder, and LA Galaxy's perfect project right now to build. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a deal with Greg Vanney get done probably by the end of this week. But that being said, it's the holiday season. I mean, if a deal is technically in place, is there really a rush to you know, announce it? I think just wait for the perfect date. Perhaps that is in 2021. You know, start the year fresh with a new coach.
It's a fair point.
Again, we don't know what their logistics are. We don't even know if it's actually finalized, but there are reports saying that it is very close to being done. And again, there's
you
one.
Know, it just occurred to me. It just occurred to me that they're probably not holding. They're probably not holding on to the info for our benefit, but rather to see what happens with LAFC, because they don't want their hot new coach announcement to get overshadowed by LAFC winning CCL.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, today is the day, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
That could definitely play a factor, but there's a bunch of different things, and I think I think nothing's really changed on that front based on, you know, the last 2 weeks. I think Greg Vanney's still set to go to LA Galaxy.
Yeah, now that we've gotten into the mind of the LA Galaxy marketing department as much as
and LAFC, we work for both teams now.
Yeah, of course.
Sharing coaches, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think that was a good point though about Vanney going to a good team. I think Galaxy's a great fit for him. They remind me in many ways of the Toronto FC team he took over, where the team's willing to make investment. They have made investment in some big players, but they just need that guy who can come in and build the team into a solid structure and a winning team. And we know Greg Vanney can do that, but looks like we do have our guest here now. So
fantastic. Let's go.
Let's bring on Brady. We're bringing on Brady.
Yeah.
There we go.
Cool.
Hey guys.
Hey Brady, how's it going?
Good. Mitch, lovely top. Sorry, Jeff, sorry to say that. I know you're not a fan, but
It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific.
I had to support my favorite championship side, so.
Oh, yeah.
Ow! Ow! Okay. All right. Gloves are off. Wait until we start talking about Leicester, buddy. I got some zingers.
Yeah.
Let's get started.
Leicester City. I'm sure you can give me. No, but yeah, we didn't bring Brady on to as much as I wish we did. Let's talk a bit about some of Toronto FC's young guys, specifically anticipating Canada having a camp within the next couple of weeks. Obviously, there's, as with anything, there's a ton that can change based on the pandemic. But if Canada does have a camp, Brady, who are some of those young TFC guys that you expect to get a call and get a look from John Herdman with, all the tournaments that are coming up for Canada in the next little bit?
Yeah, first of all, shouts to you for breaking that news over the weekend. As always, with the big scoop. Love that.
Mr. Canada Soccer.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Canada Soccer. Just absolutely humbled to be in his presence. But no, I mean, I can tell you, like, some of these guys that I've had the opportunity to speak with, Noble Akello, Rocco Romeo, we did a little interview with them, and these guys themselves are saying, part of the loan process was getting minutes, not only for TFC, but for the national program as well. And so I think definitely Noble is, he was in the Gold Cup roster, which was a bit of a surprise. And so I can't see a scenario where he doesn't get a sniff. Some of these other guys that we've been interested in, like the Jordan Peruzas and guys like that, the way that he's just like an absolute game changer is not necessarily something we have a ton of right now in this national program, and especially, here in North America. And so I'd love to see a guy like that get an opportunity. Obviously, Liam Fraser, his minutes were a little bit sporadic this year, unfortunately, but another guy who brings a different dynamic to the midfield. And the list, we could be here all day, which is not necessarily something we could have said in previous years. So it's really exciting. And it's hard to predict too. We don't really know who's going to be available, I guess, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, no, there's some good shouts there. You mentioned his name, Jordan Peruzza, and I think that's a name that should be very appealing to a lot of Toronto FC fans heading into the 2021 campaign. We sort of saw glimpses of what he's been able to do there in the USL, the USL Championship, moving up a level. He didn't really lose his stride there, and he's still, banging in goals despite his age. What can you tell me about Jordan Peruzza? What can you tell TFC fans about him? And, what kind of role could he potentially play next season for the Reds?
Yeah, obviously he's playing in the USL, and it's not necessarily equal with regards to quality of the MLS, but we've seen tons of players make that jump in the past. So why not Jordan? And I can tell you what he definitely has, and you guys have seen the highlights, is, ability to break a game open from wide. And I don't know how many players TFC have currently that kind of fit that bill. And so he's got pace, he's got tons of ability, and he's never met a shot from distance that he didn't like. And so, you got to love that for a 19-year-old kid. Sure. And
yeah.
Will it translate in his first game, his first opportunity in MLS? Maybe not, but you never really know until he gets a chance, right? So,
yeah, Toronto FC have been saying they've been looking out for goals this season. When I asked Ayo Akinola about Jordan Peruzza last season, or I might have been James Gross who asked him, the one word that Akinola used to describe Peruzza was tenacious. And perhaps that's a little something that TFC were missing sort of last season. People who are willing to run through the lines, people who are willing to put in the work, people who are willing to get in on the end of balls. And that's why I think Peruzza could actually, potentially play a pretty significant role next season for the Reds. But yeah, moving on, Jeff, I think you had another question there for Brady.
Yeah, this is a real shot in the dark. Like, this is a guesstimate upon guesstimates, considering that we don't know the system. We're waiting on who our new gaffer is going to be. But do you expect to see an increase in the minutes that kids get played at TFC 2021?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Jeff. And first I'll start by saying I hope so. I think, I think I could probably speak for most of us where we say, anytime we can get more minutes for these young kids, it's good for the club and it's obviously good for them. But, that's part of my thinking that's went into, you know, how this appointment's going to work. I've seen some big names. Obviously, Laurent Blanc has since moved on, and Patrick Vieira has been rumored as well. And for me, it's like, if the fit works, and it's also somebody who has like a long-term image of how this club's going to work, not a guy who's going to come in and you know, and steal some press conferences for a year or two and then move on. Like, we want somebody who's going to, you know, actually build like a club here and not work with Bradley and Altidore for a year or two, or if they're going to be around for a year or two. But yeah, like, we want somebody who's building a club. And I think obviously that's what Greg Vandy did. I think, you know, he's a builder. He said it himself. And I hope they get somebody else who's a builder, and maybe somebody who's a builder who's going to use the kids a little more.
So to follow up, you weren't too upset that Laurent Blanc chose Qatar over TFC?
I mean, like, anytime you get a name like that, that's going to be cool. And from a selfish standpoint, maybe be able to ask a guy like that a couple of questions is obviously an opportunity. But I'm not sure that was necessarily the best fit for something long term. And for me, when I see all these kids who are 18, 19, who I think have like genuine promise to be players in MLS for the next decade, I think, you know, we need a guy who knows how the league works and obviously has some faith in these kids as well.
Do you think that's Vieira?
I hope so. I don't know what Vieira thinks about these kids, honestly. If he wants some input, he can jump in here whenever with us, and I'll certainly give it to him. Yeah,
I'd melt. As a gunner, I'd melt.
Invitation for you,
Yeah.
Patrick Vieira.
Yeah,
if you're watching this
yeah.
next Tuesday, you know where to find us. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's announce his hiring on WTR Weekly. That'll be quite cool.
Yeah.
I'll wear an Arsenal kit every week if that happens.
Yeah.
I'll lend you some of mine.
Yeah, you've got a few, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well done. And friend of the show now. Definitely friend of the show. Well done. Ralph Prieso looks like an absolute gem. He keeps getting better. Keeps getting minutes.
He better
next season.
we got you.
He better keep getting minutes next season. Yeah, you guys got that. What kind of role do you expect Ralph Prieso to play on next year's squad? And do you think we'll see an increase in, you know, the amount of looks that he's been getting?
I think, yeah. I mean, he was kind of thrown into the team at a weird stage in the season, and also a very weird season. But I will say, like, when I did talk to Rocco and Noble, they were very high on Ralph, and one of the things they were kind of missing out about being back home the most was, you know, being there and being able to kind of give that guy a pat on the back and say, like, keep going, man. Like, you're paving the way for guys like us, and the path is becoming clearer. And so when you have a group of young guys who are as interested in, you know, their peers having success as they are, that's such an exciting prospect for TFC. You know, no matter what level of soccer we've all kind of played at, you know, when you've got a group of guys who are kind of gelled and have a genuine interest in accomplishing something together as opposed to individuals. Like, I hate to go Ted Lasso on you guys here, but like,
no, go ahead.
You know, like, it's huge. And like, these guys you look at their socials, they're just like all about promoting what they're doing abroad and what they're doing with the senior club. And I think we've seen what energy Ralph can bring, and as good of an ability as Bradley and Delgado and Oso and these guys have. Like, they got a lot of kilometers on them in the last 5-10 years. And so if you can inject some youth into there and kind of give a bit of a different dynamic, and if that's Ralph, if that's Noble, whoever it is, I think that's a huge plus. No,
that's a great shout. And one little Ralph Prieso anecdote I'll tell is 2 months before his signing, and 2 months really before he emerged, like, we heard about the Jaden Nelsons, the Jaquil Marshall-Rudys, all of them before they kind of reached that Toronto FC first team standpoint. Ralph Prieso kind of came out of the blue for most people. Yeah. And 2 months before his signing, I remember Josie Altidore listing off a list of the youngsters, and he listed off most of the youngsters that were already had first team roster spots. But there was one name he included that didn't, and of course that was Ralph Prieso. Right. So he's been on TFC's radar for quite a while. This wasn't like a sudden breakthrough for, you know, this kid, but you know, he is in that same echelon as the Jaquil Marshall-Rudys, the Jaden Nelsons, and the team really holds him to that regard. So I think that's important to keep in mind as we do think about Ralph Prieso and his impact that he could have on the club moving forward. Mitch, you might have had another question there for good old Brady.
Oh, I think we lost him. I'll come in with mine. Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, Ralph came out of nowhere. Like, he was a huge surprise, and we cover the team, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, who's the next Ralph? Like, going further down the chain, the tiers. Tell us about some people that aren't on our radar that we should maybe be paying closer attention to in the academy pipeline.
Some people who might have had some good loan stints, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. I think conveniently I wrote a little article about this. Yeah, no, I mean, I'll right there with Ralph. Like, I'll be honest, coming into the season, he wasn't a guy that I actually knew a ton about. I mean, I was aware of who he was, but it wasn't the profile of an Akello or maybe even a Prieso. Yeah, like if anybody tuned into the Island Games, I think it would be hard to ignore what Julian Dunn did there. I know he's gotten some opportunities with the MLS, but not necessarily went his way, and not necessarily during the brightest TFC kind of points in that one.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years since Julian Dunn's last got a look with the first.
Exactly, and he was. I mean, he's still so young. So he was what 18 years old in, 17 years old in as a defender. Yeah, that's a big ask, right? But I mean, he went into a Valor team that immediately, he was kind of their go-to guy on the back line, and I was very impressed with him. I knew a little bit about him, but the way that he kind of commanded the game, I thought at a young age, like, you picture him and Rocco Romeo kind of slotting into center back with some of those Asian guys and Omar, and obviously we're not sure what's going to happen with Simon, but I mean, I know we know a little bit about Julian Dunn, but maybe after our Romeo, Okellos, and Priesos of the world, he'd probably be my next guy who I think is a safe bet to say this guy has a legitimate opportunity to be a full-time MLSer. Yeah,
for sure. He was just named to Canadian Premier League's next gen class of the U23 under 23 players. Yeah. So that was pretty cool to see him recognized there and that sort of thing. But despite just going through, just the Island Games, that one tournament with them. But he was, by all accounts, was all stellar there, and his coaches was singing praise for him.
Oh yeah.
Here's my question for you though: as it stands right now, TFC have 2 veteran center backs who are under.
Oh my God, Mike! It was my question too.
I hope it's half of our viewers' question too. Omar Gonzalez and Chris Mavinga were the only 2 center backs they have under contracts next season. Are you comfortable heading into next season with Rocco Romeo and Julian Dunn as the team's 3rd and 4th, defenders next season, or do you think they need to add another veteran?
It's a tough one. I think I'd like to see a scenario where they both get some opportunity, and maybe which one of Rocco and Julian perform better. That could be kind of a part of your 3-4, where we would see typically a Simon Zavaleta in the last 2 seasons, I guess. It is a tough position to just jump into cold as a young player. Like it really is. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but there's some truth to that with regards to, being a central defender or being a winger. It's 2 very different scenarios for someone to jump into. Like we'd always seen Jaden Nelson kind of make that jump pretty seamlessly towards the end of the year. But I think there is growing pains for a central defender. And so if there's a guy that fits that, that was Gonzalez 2 years ago for us. If there's somebody like that who's available and they can make work on the books, because it's obviously a challenge, then I think giving one of those 2 guys a regular spot with somebody who has a little bit more MLS savvy experience would probably be the best scenario, at least for 2021. But I don't think either of them are very far, to be honest.
Yeah, good point. And Vanny last year spoke about Liam Fraser being able to also potentially play some center back too. So there are other options TFC can look for. But those guys last season were the 5th and 6th, central defenders on the club. So perhaps they do get an increase in 2021 if TFC are all about this, youth movement that they're kind of, gearing towards.
I think that's the importance of having a guy like Omar Gonzalez too there, though, where, you have a veteran MLS center back who's been in the league for a long time, and then you can just pair one of these young guys with him, and they'll kind of have someone out there who can lead for them. They certainly miss Drew Moore in that capacity, definitely. But Gonzalez is another one of those guys who can help like that. I did want to ask you. We've talked about this a little bit, but with all the players we've mentioned and all the talent level coming through, how important is the next coach that Toronto FC brings through? How important is it that he have a proven track record of developing young players? Because we know that's important to the club. We've seen all the signings they've made, Ollie Curtis with New York Red Bulls. So how important is it that the next coach have that, like I said, that proven track record?
I think it's huge. Like we've seen a huge change with regards to how MLS teams are being built in recent seasons. And a lot of it is from the ground, which is not necessarily something we would have said about this league, 5 years ago, let alone 10, 15. And so it's kind of slowly going towards that European mindset where you get some homegrown talent, and obviously in the MLS's cases, you use those DPs to kind of give that extra boost. And so I don't think there's a question about whether the talent is there for TFC in the pipeline with TFC2 and abroad as well. So to get the right guy in to get the most out of that, and find the right balance of veteran kind of savvy experience, as I previously said, and then some youthful exuberance, I think that's kind of the recipe for MLS. And so if TFC want to keep continuing to have the success that they've had in the last 5-6 years, then that guy has to be somebody that's not just going to play guys because they've been there, done that. It has to be guys who see what's happening in training and reward the young kids for that.
Mm-hmm. Brady, you wrote an interesting feature this year, and you got to talk to these two gentlemen, obviously Rocco Romeo and Noble Okello. They were pretty candid about talking about their relationship, and we say the word loan move, and to us that just means a player going elsewhere to find playing time. But to the actual player, a loan move means moving their entire life overseas and doing a lot of growing up themselves. Can you just give us some insight into what their experience was like in Denmark overseas, and two up and coming youngsters?
Yeah, no, that was a fun conversation. I'm sure any of us and any football fans, you as a kid, you watch the Premier League on TV and you wonder if you got that opportunity, like what kind of culture shock would that be, or you know what I mean? And so they were, like you said, they're very candid. At the end of the day, we kind of lose track of it sometimes. These are kids, right? Like these guys are young, and they're moving to Europe and living on their own probably for the first time. And it was interesting to me just how Rocco said, like, he had kind of acclimatized to Denmark at this point. And then when he got word of Noble coming, it was like he got to do all the touristy things again and kind of experience that a second time with somebody he knew so well. And yeah, like they just seem to have such a great relationship off the field. And as I spoke to that, my Mr. Optimistic Ted Lasso, like I just think that goes a long way. And if you send a young kid overseas for 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, like if that experience doesn't go well, I think that could have a serious effect on their ability to come back and actually gain some meaningful experience from that. But from what they said, the level of competition was not too big of a jump, but it was enough to challenge them at the kind of the first team level. And so they seemed the last thing they said on our conversation was like, we're ready for 2021. We're buzzing for training camp, and so I think supporters should be buzzing as well.
For sure, that's a good point. One of the things I've read about in that story was that they created like a really special bond with each other. There's not many kids who get to, grow up playing your dream, and then let alone have your friend with you to experience it there the entire way, step by step. And that's not just, with TFC, that's actually going overseas to Europe, having, one of your good friends go with you and, spend that first year alone, by yourself. You do a lot of growing up, of course.
Yeah.
It's going to, in a way, that could also translate onto the pitch of just how close some of these youngsters are. We talked about Shaquille Marshall-Rudy, Jaden Nelson, Ralph Prieso. Those are all kids who grew up playing together. Those are all kids who grew up on the same, Canadian Youth International team. So is this some sort of, an additional chemistry boost that this team might get with the relationship that these kids are creating with one another? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I dreamed this scenario when I was a kid, I was always playing with Cristiano Ronaldo at United, but I guess Noble and Rocco get to play with each other at HP Cold. So yeah, it didn't work out. It didn't work out for me, but I'm glad to live vicariously through them. But no, I mean, like, honestly, that was the interesting part about it was, of course, we talked about the on-field stuff, and the first time they got into the 11 together was obviously a special moment. But most of the stuff they cited was the off-field, like you said, the off-field side of it, where they're living together and kind of growing together. And I actually, I don't think that could be over. Like, I don't think that could be more important. Like, it's just a group of guys who are going to come into the first team at the same time, have a ton of familiarity, and kind of have the same drive and the same goal in their mind. I mean, it sounds like a recipe for success to me, and I just hope whoever does come in gives them a chance. Yeah.
Drew Moore was on the show, Footy Talks, our like sister show, and he spoke about the relationship that he had with Michael Bradley as a center back and central midfielder. Mm-hmm. And he said, no matter what, he knew that he could find Michael Bradley as an outlet. He knew that he would be there. And I wonder if that same sort of relationship is kind of developing around Rocco Romeo and Noble Okello because of that trust, on and off the field. And I think that could go a long way. Yeah. But yeah, let's move on from that. I think we have some fast money. Brady, we'll keep you on for this. This is obviously one of our favorite, new segments that we've been adding onto the show. Kevin's not here, so we'll have to step up and beat Kevin. But you know what? I'll be the host this time, and I'll let you three guys answer the questions, just so
All right.
we can keep this moving. All right.
You have to wear the sunglasses though.
I know.
Did you say fun glasses or sunglasses? Because I really like fun glasses as opposed to sunglasses.
I said sunglasses, but I'll pretend I said fun glasses.
Awesome. They're fun glasses forevermore. All right, let's go. Fast money.
All right. So just so if anyone doesn't know how this works, point of this game is not to think. Just essentially just answer the questions as quickly as you can. And I have, of course, 6 questions here for you because we're in the 6. Let's go. So, first question. Who was the most impressive Toronto FC youngster for you this season? Jeff, I'll start with you.
No thinking? Gallardo.
No thinking.
All right. Dio.
Brady?
Jaden Nelson.
Jaden Nelson. Okay, we got a split vote there. You guys don't want to say the same answers or what?
None of us wanted to copy Jeff, but
all right. So this is a kind of a trickier one. Aside from Iowa Canoa's, over 1,000 minutes played this season, which Toronto FC player aged 22 years and younger had the most minutes played for the Reds in 2020?
Fraser? No, he's older.
yeah, go Liam too.
Yeah,
Is he older than 22?
he's 22.
Okay, Fraser.
Yeah, I think
Brady?
it's got to be Liam. Yeah.
Yeah, so all you guys are wrong. It gave me so much joy in saying that. The answer to the question is actually Tony Gallagher.
Oh.
Tony played 464 minutes last season, and Liam Fraser was ultimately held to 436, which brings me to my next point. Who was the most disappointing youngster for you this season for Toronto FC? Jeff, go.
EG with a bullet.
He's 24 now. I don't know if he considers youngster. I was thinking like 20, under 23, under 22. But if you want to go EG, you can use it as a cop-out, Jeff.
No. Who is the most disappointing youngster? Liam Fraser.
Go ahead, Mitch.
I think you have to go Liam too, but like with any of the youngs this year, like I don't think any of them got enough, other than Io, got enough of like a thing where you can really consider, or enough of a look where you can really consider it like a disappointing season. Like disappointment to me is where they get an extended look and don't play well in it. I don't think any young guy really got that this year.
Yeah, go ahead, Brady.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a cop-out, but I was disappointed that Noble got like that one appearance for a half hour, and then that was it. So more Noble, sure. 2021.
That was like the thing about Liam is that he was so highly spoken about, even in training camp, even before like when Michael Bradley went down, like they were raving about the kid. And he gets 8 minutes in the first 2 games where Michael Bradley is out of commission. So yeah, from on the field standpoint, when he was on the field, did Liam Fraser disappoint? I mean, he wasn't as good as we'd like him to be. I think we can all say that, but he also didn't have the best opportunity to perform, and I think we're all on the same page there. But
did you, when I asked you for the ultimate TFC kids lineup for FIFA, I don't think you had Liam Fraser in the midfield. I think it was
Prieso and Okello.
Yeah, exactly.
I only went with that because they're the youngest, like on the roster. So just like youngest players, I'll throw out the youngest starting 11 we can do.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, let's move on from Fast Money there. Or sorry, not Fast Money. The next question.
Yeah, the next question. Yeah.
Which TFC Young Gun right now do you think will have the biggest 2021 campaign? Jeff, go.
Achara.
Yeah, that's a decent show. I'll go Jaden Nelson. I think it depends whether the new coach used wingers or not, but Nelson, I think, will get minutes.
For it. Mm-hmm. Brady?
Yeah, I like Jaden as well. Sorry, I was going to say Liam, but that midfield's still too crowded, I think, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. No, good points. All right. So this one's a little bit trickier. First Toronto FC youngster to be loaned out in 2021. Jeff, go.
Liam.
No, I don't think Liam's getting loaned out. I'll go Dunn again. I think he might be back.
Oh yeah, Dunn. Yeah, absolutely.
No, Jeff, no takesy backsies. You already committed.
They're called a mulligan. It's called a mulligan. All right, whatever, fine.
Go ahead,
keep your damn Fast Money.
Yeah, if Dunn's getting loaned, I guess Rocco's staying. So This is tough.
So is your answer done?
I'll go Prieso. I don't know if he's going to get an opportunity. I hope I'm wrong, though.
Yeah. No. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer yet, but there
Except
will
what
be in the
Jeff
new year,
said.
and we will remind you of that. Okay, and last one, we'll wrap it up. Aside from Io Akinola, there was one Toronto FC youngster who managed to find the back of the net in 2020. Who was he?
Achara.
All right, Jeff. I mean, it was supposed to be a little bit more difficult than that.
Yeah.
Like, you were supposed to remember Achara right away.
Okay.
I was hoping
Honestly,
he'd kind of fade to your back of your mind.
well, you said no thinking, so fading to the back of the mind seems like thinking. Also, just Mitch, did you know it instantly?
Yeah.
Brady?
Yeah, I was sat right beside Mike in the press box, so how could I forget?
Exactly.
What a time.
So
The
not
only
a
thing
hard question. Three doctors agree, not a hard question.
The point of that
I
was
only
just
say this to make Jeff cringe, but is 23 really that young? At least in soccer circles.
No, it's not. I would say it isn't. I mean, what was the NYCFC dude that went back to England? How old was he?
the NYCFC.
Jack
Harrison?
Yeah, Jack Harrison. And all the ink that was spilled about how he had like slipped through the cracks of the traditional European pipeline.
Yeah,
I think he was like
24.
21 and a half. So
Well, for sure.
Yeah.
Tony Gallagher was 21 when he moved over here on loan, right? And
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
towards
To
the
get
end of
minutes,
his academy
exactly.
days from Liverpool.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that age is definitely a lot younger overseas than it is in North America. But that being said, I feel like North America has a lot more late bloomers than European leagues because of the style of MLS. I mean, Richard was his first year in professional soccer, right? He's 22 years old. That's because he got drafted at a university, 22 years old. It's just about the route that you have coming up. And, you know, we can talk about Richie Larea. I mean, he's 26 years old now. Is there a side in Europe that, you know, there's probably not too many that wouldn't take a Richie Larea right now on their team.
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, significantly less academies as well, and like newer academies too. So there's only so many spots for players in North America versus Europe. You know, where you've got Germany with all those regional talent centers and like 10 leagues deep of talented players. So I think that makes a massive difference as well in terms of, like you said, players who just aren't given an opportunity until later on in their career, and then once they're given that opportunity, they do have that talent where they're good enough to step in and whatever. So yeah, I do think, and we also have that North American view of sports too, where like guys come through like maybe 18, but like most guys go to college, like 20 is like pretty young in North American sports and not as young in European sports. So
I would agree with that.
And I'll add that I think it's also changing. I think we're getting to the point where North American academies are going to start becoming more like European academies, where TFC is just not going to have room for all these youngsters that they have coming up, right? So they're going to have to start selling guys off at like 19, 20, 21. And, you know, Jordan Prieso was a name that they were, you know, I mean, they obviously wanted to get him signed, but he was considering going elsewhere because of, you know, what's in front of him. And it's not a bad problem to have. It's just you got to make sure you're getting the cream of the crop at your club, right? And that's the ultimate goal. And ensuring that there is a pathway for those kids not only to, you know, sign their first team contract, but also succeed and to get
first team minutes.
And I think we're getting there. I'm not sure, you know, this season they'll go fully over the cliff and go all youngsters. I think we're still on that transition phase where we saw the Bradleys, the Altidores, but I think you're going to see a nice little mix of the two. And TFC are also a team that don't have a lot of salary budget. And I mentioned this before, youngsters help that. If you can play youngsters, they don't take up salary budgets. So if you can find that combination of veterans and youngsters, you're in the perfect mix right now.
Here's a question for the group. Would we accept being less competitive next year in order to give our young guys more minutes, in order to be more competitive, say, in 2022 and onwards?
No, I wouldn't. No? I think TFC is a club that needs to compete every year in, year out. I think they have the capability of doing that. I think they have the resources to do that. I think they have the resources to accomplish both things. And, you know, just because I don't think we need to sacrifice one to accomplish the other. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I agree with you, but I'm seeing that kind of binary argument manifest all over the interwebs and in TFC land. And I guess my question was, is it binary? Is it one or the other? Can you do both? And I'm pleased as punch to hear that everybody agrees with me, because I do think you can do both.
I think you have to. I think if you want to attract more youngsters, I think you need to do both. I think players want to play at a winning club. I think learn how to win by playing at a winning club. You learn how to be successful playing at a winning club. I think it helps their development to be part of a competitive team as opposed to being run out against, players and you're being just destroyed. Like, that Julian Dudd example from a couple of years ago. I don't think that was good for his development. Losing 5-0 to Houston Dynamo team when you're surrounded by a bunch of other, like, it's just not great for their confidence. I mean, what are they learning from that game that they, like, there's it's just a lot to take away, right? So
yeah.
I think there needs to be that balance where they can have veterans that to ease these players into the side, and they have the youngsters too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely.
Cool. Brady, thank you for joining us, man. We really appreciate your insight. It's going to be an exciting year for the TFC Young Guns. Do you have anything else to add before we let you go here?
No, I'm on quarantine day 11, so anything to keep my sanity. I always love to. I just love to be able to talk footy with somebody other than myself. I've basically been surviving on craft beers and CONCACAF after dark, so hopefully we get a good one tonight. And, happy holidays.
Who are you cheering for, Brady?
Jeff, you might want to plug your ears, but I want to see LAFC win. I'm a big Mark Anthony K guy. I can't lie. It's the left foot.
Toronto boy.
Yeah.
I actually played against Mark Anthony K in high school soccer a bunch.
Could have been you playing for LAFC.
Could have been me, man.
I definitely. Okay, sorry.
All right, thanks, Brady.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Happy holidays.
Thanks, buddy. Talk soon.
Awesome stuff.
I definitely don't want to miss talking about Brian Schmetzer's article in Sounder that dropped yesterday.
I gotta audible you, Jeff. We're gonna talk some Pablo Piatti.
Oh yeah. Okay,
audible some Pablo Piatti. So it is looking right now, based on the MLS re-entry draft, that Pablo Piatti and Toronto FC reunion is looking increasingly more and more unlikely to happen. Pablo Piatti did not opt out of the MLS re-entry draft, stage 1 or stage 2, meaning that any other MLS team in the league right now can select Piatti, and they could have the right to negotiate a contract with him. So this doesn't ultimately mean that Piatti is joining a new club. But what it does signify is that Piatti is at very least open to joining a new club. He had the ability to opt out of the process, which would, of course, give him the right to negotiate with other clubs, and namely, of course, Toronto FC. If he was so set on coming back to Toronto FC for a discount, which is what they need to happen in order to bring him back, essentially, he would have opted out of the process and he would have settled in Toronto. The fact that he hasn't opted out of the process means I think he is looking for a little bit more money. He's looking for the other options that are out there, and he's looking, to get what he believes that he deserves, which he's completely entitled to. He's a free agent. But, Bill Manning said that if TFC were in a position to bring in a new designated player and Pablo Piatti next season, then they would. I just, from what I've seen this morning, and, the MLS re-entry draft is actually going down right now, I don't think that'll happen. There's some precedent for this. Last season, Toronto, just so you guys understand the MLS re-entry draft a little bit better, Toronto FC last season, they drafted Juan Agudelo in the MLS re-entry draft, if you guys remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Kinda. And of course, TFC were unable to reach an agreement with Agudelo, who had a really big salary budget, but they were sort of hoping that he would take a discount to play on a competitive team. So they took that risk. They had acquired his rights, and obviously they weren't able to come to a deal. But what happened was TFC then subsequently flipped Agudelo's rights to Inter Miami. They got some GAM, some money for
always
selecting him. And Agudelo and Inter Miami agreed to that contract. So what happens is if a team drafts Piatti today, they'll claim his right of first refusal, which means that TFC would have to pay an extra bit of GAM in order to bring back Piatti, which is obviously even worse because they already have salary budget concerns. So if you're going to have to pay an even additional amount of salary to bring him back, I mean, it's just making it seem more and more. So yes, at this point, I think Pablo Piatti's gone.
Yeah. You didn't mention that Agudelo's back on that list this year, though. So if we want to try for round 2 with Juan, we are more than capable. But no, I mean, the way you outline it and the way it looks, it's a done deal. I don't think he's coming back. My question is, do you think he's going to stay in MLS for this year?
And
Yeah,
that's a different can of worms. Yeah.
Given recent history, he's going to the Colorado Rapids.
TFC 2, baby.
TFC 2, baby. Benazé and Pablo as their wingers. They're going to play a 4-3-3. It's going to be amazing for everybody.
But yeah, that's a good point. It's important to note that his options are not limited to just MLS. But the fact that he is going through the actual process of the reentry, which, again, he didn't have to. He could have opted out of it. It shows that he's at least entertaining offers from other sides.
Yeah. And to bring him back with an extra cost of bringing him back after we had him is I don't see the front office doing. I just don't see that happening. I they tried to play ball. I think the moment has passed and the Pablo's adventures in the six are done. There's an end date. And it was.
I think it would have been ideal for them to bring both of them back, but obviously that's reality. It's 2020. If Pablo wants more money and he deserves more money, he's more than entitled to do that.
I mean, it would be interesting if he goes to another team as a TAM player. But again, we're not privy to the financials, so maybe it's just simply that TFC does not have a lot of wiggle room in that bracket. We've got all kinds of money we can spend on a DP, but our TAM situation is pretty tight, and there you go.
No, that's it. That's a good point, George. If everyone else calls Piatti's bluff,
and he's homeless. That's some strong land. And he's homeless.
Piatti still works something out. Yes, they absolutely could work something out, but as I mentioned, they're more than likely that if a team does select Piatti, TFC would have to pay that extra little bit to get him back. So again, that's working against their goal of trying to fit everyone within their salary budget. If Piatti goes undrafted today, TFC could, pick up the phone call and be like, hey, teams apparently weren't as interested in you as you thought they were. Do you want to come back? And
and you're homeless. We can give you an apartment. But
possible.
But would we still have to pay that extra? You went on the list. If
he goes undrafted, no.
Okay.
No team would own his right of first refusal. That would actually still belong to Toronto FC, I believe.
Okay, so then I'm not going to say it's 100% done.
It's not 100%
because I figured
done,
that fee was regardless of anything. If he goes undrafted, we still have to pay a fee.
It's a low risk, high reward move for any club that does draft him, right?
Yeah,
because you get his rights and you get to negotiate, potentially try and negotiate a cheaper deal with them. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's the same thing that TFC had with Agudelo last year. It's a low risk, high reward move for any club, and it'd be surprising to see, a team not do that. Again, going back on the Piatti thing, is that I think he has a number in front of him already that TFC want to present.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely agree with
offer,
that. Yeah.
Right. So the fact that he's looking elsewhere, that shows that he's not really the most content with that offer. He thinks he can do better. And I think that's more the underlying sign that I'm alluding to as opposed to the actual draft itself.
I think that came through loud and clear. I mean, we can't agree on what he was making. I said 1.5 million. You said you've heard as high as 3.
Yeah, I don't know how high.
I mean, the only reason, again, MLS roster rules. But
we need more transparency, man.
Yeah, I mean, to buy him down, to even have the opportunity to buy him down, I think 3 million is too high, right? I think
no, you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, and when he came in, I mean, they were screaming from the mountaintops that I know he's a DP right now, but there's a potential we can buy him down to TAM for year 2.
Well, I think we were screaming for the mountaintops.
Yeah, we were saying that. Yeah, I don't know.
Was that us? Oh, I thought
the club saying that.
Oh, it wasn't the club saying that. I thought somewhere.
Those are all of our fancy reporters saying that.
Oh,
Jeff just says stuff and then thinks Greg Vanny said it. So then,
yeah.
True. Back to him. He's like, "Oh, I remember when the club said this."
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I wanted to say about Schmetzer. I mean, Vanny never gave us a WTR article, and Brian Schmetzer gave a whole op-ed piece to Sounders at Heart. Very, very sad.
We were talking about this before, but one time Brian Schmetzer for Sounders at Heart for their media game, he did an article like rating all of the media members' players out of 10 and how they performed in the game, and it was hilarious. Like they were all like threes, I'm pretty sure, because like obviously they're media members and they were like terrible at soccer. But yeah, he did like a full scouting report on all those guys. So it was
media man. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about his assistants, because I think he's got a pretty packed bench of MLS former MLS luminaries. But yeah, no, media members. I mean, I can't imagine what my score out of 3 would be.
Great article though at Sounder at Heart. If you guys want to check that out, that's written by Brian Schmetzer himself. It's really interesting because Brian Schmetzer still technically doesn't have a new contract heading into next season, I believe.
Yep.
And so the fact is he's despite not being under contract technically, he's still reaching out to media members and writing open letters to the fans, expressing how much he wants the club to do better and be better. Essentially, that was the gist of it. That's everything you want in a manager now. Yeah.
I mean, it's rare for that kind of candor.
I've never heard of anything like it.
I mean, we've been blessed in Toronto. I mean, Seba wrote that article that I think it was in Hello magazine, and then didn't Bradley write an open letter to the fans post 2016?
You have players writing open letters to fans, absolutely. It's just
coaches.
The coaches and the type of media that they're using. Like usually you see those page and it's the front page of the Toronto Star or like the big magazine. It's the fact that he has this relationship with the diehards, which is the fans at Sounder at Heart, who are actually the diehard MLS fans. It's not just the mainstream media. So I think he understands that, and I think that part of it's just so cool. There's no disconnect between Brian Schmetzer and the Seattle Sounder fans. I think they're all on the same page there.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. I've been talking about it a lot.
Special relationship.
Very special relationship. And I wish I knew more about Seattle. Like I wish I had a firmer grasp on the vibe of the city, so I could really, really appreciate just how special a relationship is. Because my understanding of it is kind of limited by the fact that aside from the movie version of Seattle, I don't quite know what it's all about. So there is a little bit of
MLS Cup 2025, Jeff. Let's go.
Indeed. I think that was I definitely wanted to talk about the Schmetzer thing because it did hit me sideways, and I did enjoy it. I think
it's a good place to wrap up this show this week.
Mm-hmm. We got a big one next week, boys.
Yeah, last show of 2020 next week, so certainly excited for that. Thanks to Brady for coming on. I think it's always good to talk Toronto FC prospects, especially right now, because we're always thinking about what the club can improve and who the club can go out and get. But sometimes there are those internal options that we forget about because we haven't seen them, or they haven't developed quite yet to that first team level. But there's a lot of players within the Toronto FC structure that certainly are deserving of a look and could well play a bigger role for the club next season. So good to talk about some of them. And as I said, just one more week to go in 2020. So looking forward to that final show of the week next week. Until then, have a safe and happy holidays, everyone.
Cheers.
Happy holidays.